What's going on, y'all? We back with another episode. Schooling again. Schooling again. Run that. She popping in and out. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
iPhone.
Oh man. Alright. What's going on, y'all? We back. Another episode, Skool and the Gang podcast. Got my guys here with me. I ain't starting this over. I got my guys here with me. Beans, Biz, Tillz, and we got a special guest today, Andrea. How y'all doing today?
Good. Well,
Chillin', man, chillin'.
kind of good.
Yeah. How y'all week been? Or our weekend been? Sorry, it's beginning of the week.
Kids was outside and whatnot,
Definitely was outside this weekend, man. Birthday was Friday. I was outside from Friday to yesterday, man.
Oh, that's why you got the Tommy Hilfiger on. We still on birthday mode, yeah.
Yeah, kids was acting up. We was outside. It was lit.
That nigga the dress code.
What you do for your birthday?
Shit, kids hit the beach. Just a little turned out, a little day drinking. Then went to this lounge. Had a few people come out, went to the lounge and ate. Just good drinks, good conversation. Then what I do? Yesterday I went to this event, live music, stuff like that. It was pretty dope. Saturday, one of my friends, she got a production company. She just launched her. She did a screening for her film, her series called Stare. It's pretty dope. It's actually pretty dope. Shout out to Nina. So
Shout out to Nina.
yeah, it was a lit weekend. A lot of liquor.
Those.
As long as I wasn't the only one outside, all right, cool.
Nah, your weekend probably still was crazier than mine though.
Nah, chill. It wasn't my birthday weekend. So I was chilling.
Nah, your shoes probably somewhere still dancing.
Come on. We gonna do this, yo? We gonna do this episode again?
You wish it was your birthday.
Word is he still celebrating his birthday.
That's ignorant, bro.
From
My
April?
birthday was in April. That's very, very ignorant.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Oh man.
Anywho.
Yeah, so let's get into this topic today. I'll let Beans lead it.
So, today we want to talk a little bit about dating with kids and blended families. It all kind of sparked off from the group chat. The other day we kind of all had a vent session about our experiences in this arena. So we thought we'd get somebody on that could give us a bit of a different perspective from the other side of it as the person who has the kids and is dating and is trying to make everything work with their relationship. So that's why we brought Drea on. So once again, thanks for coming on, Drea. Nice to see you.
Sure, it's nice to see all of you. I'm really curious to know, how did my name come up?
It wasn't me.
Who was it? Who was it, Danny?
It was one of these two.
You said like
Wow. That's sick, bro. First of all, let the record show it was not me. I know that's what you're thinking, Drea.
Wasn't I?
Not necessarily.
No, I think it was me. I came up with a number of people that I thought could speak to the topic well. I mean, we know a number of people that could speak to it, but we don't know how well they could speak to it. So you should feel honored that we wanted you on.
I am. I'm super honored, Otis. I knew it was you.
Moving on.
Nah, if it was me, it'd been World War III out this motherfucker, bro.
You have to stop thinking of me.
No.
Yeah, that's negative. Positive talk, man. Positive
Exactly.
talk.
Positive talk.
Yeah. All right.
So before we get into that stuff, I think 2 episodes ago we had a guest on. Me and Biz in particular, we're talking about how it was being in a relationship during a pandemic. So just in general, what was your experience like being in a relationship and also getting married in a pandemic?
I think my experience was quite different. Not only was I in a relationship and I got married, but I was pregnant during the pandemic. So it just added an extra layer of, I guess, a struggle. And I suffered a really hard pregnancy. So I spent a lot of time in the hospital, a lot of time just having a lot of anxiety attacks. Like it wasn't the greatest experience. So all of that in the midst of, the pandemic, it was very difficult. But the one thing I can say is that my husband is probably the person that helped me get through it and helped bring me through to where I am today, which is in the much better state than I was at that time. So he was my rock.
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to Mike.
Shout out to
Mike. Mike Lowry.
So we Tillz and Will was talking about like dating at this age and just how kind of trash it's been. You've been with the same person for a while, but prior to being with him, having a son, being a single mom for a period of time, what was it like dating as a single mother?
Trash is probably the best word that you right? Honestly.
Trash.
It
seems to be the common word.
And I think the hard part about it too, right, is because it's the time management is what's really key here, right? Because it's hard to date and meet people as a single parent because you don't really get the time allotted to you when you're free and you don't have any major responsibilities. You know what I mean? So you can't just pick up and say, oh, let me go to that day party. Let me go to that brunch. Let me go to terminal. Like you can't do everything. So
terminal.
Terminal.
That's where you wanted to be?
Shout out to terminal. You know what?
I was about to say terminal.
Facts.
Shout out to terminal.
We brought that up too, like finding your significant other in a club or a bar.
I sure did.
It's still hope, bro.
Or
it's still hope, yeah.
But it was super trash. It was just hard to even manage time to even get out and date, and then have a career, and then hold the fort down, and then find somebody that's actually worth you taking that time away from your child to date with. You know what I mean? It was hard. It was hard. The pickings were very slim.
Dang. Okay. Just going in on the whole town. What was I about to say? So the guy that you were dating, were they able to understand the responsibility that you had and that you couldn't give them probably the time that they wanted or needed?
I think it depends on who it was. I think there were maybe one or two that may have understood, but the majority they didn't. Because I would have a guy, let's say I'm dating, and he's like, "Oh, I'm about to come through your house. Let me come outside real quick." And it's just like, nah, I can't do that. My kid is 2 and he's asleep in bed. Oh, you can't come downstairs real quick? No, I can't do that. So there was just a lot of that, or like, oh, let's go out tonight. Let's go to the movies. And it's like you can't just spring stuff on me like that. I'm a single mother. I need time to prepare. I need time to get a babysitter. It's things that single people do that you just can't do when you have a kid. And if you don't have a child yourself, and let me not even say that, because some of the men did have children, but if they were not the primary parent who had their children all the time, they didn't understand that I can't do what you do. You know what I mean? So it was hard.
I'm gonna add in on that. You're a single good mom, because I've actually dated some women who would come downstairs and be like, "All right, I'm gonna come down," and they had kids. So shout out to you.
There you go. Yeah, I wasn't leaving my baby in the house.
So School, you was promoting the bad parents.
Chill.
Oh yeah, like
Chill.
I'm just saying. This kid.
So it was like,
Chill.
You was telling them to come downstairs. They were like,
School was
okay.
out here setting them up.
School was like, nah, spending time with
It was
kids.
more like, come over.
Oh, it was a test? He was testing them?
He was testing them.
Yeah, you test.
Okay.
I like that. It was a test. Yeah, it was a test.
My guy went back to the car and was like,
just edit all the way up to it was a test, bro. Right?
Went back to the whip and was like, failed.
Yep.
Damn, School. I know you was like, setting them up.
So Tillz and Skool, you both have dated women with kids. What were some of the biggest issues that you guys ran into as men without kids trying to date a woman that has a kid?
Go
I'll
ahead,
let
bro.
Skool go first on that.
Tillz never wanted to jump in.
I would say, nah, 'cause I know I know I'm probably more long-winded than Skool, so
Damn.
them not wanting to come
It's
outside.
it kind of. I think I briefly touched on it on the other episode, but it kind of in the group chat. It kind of feel like you're on eggshells with certain situations. You know what I mean? Because you especially if you really want to get to know the person you're dating, but you don't only have to get to know them. You, depending on where you're at in that situation, you're getting to know their kid and how that mother reacts with her kid, and then how you fit into that equation. And it can just be a lot sometimes, because like I said, you feel like you're walking on eggshells. You feel like you can't say certain things or do certain things unless a conversation is had, and that person may not want to have a conversation because and I get it, it's their kid comes first, and they might not want to have a conversation about certain things because that conversation is not going to matter because it's my kid first. So I don't know, I have a different experience, and I've had good relationships where I've dated somebody and it was like cool. Like once we really got things going, like I fit right in. Like if her daughter needed something, like I was there. Like I cared for her daughter. Like even to this day, like I don't talk to her, but I still wonder. Like okay, I hope she's good. I hope her daughter's doing good and stuff like that. So
before we jump into, so how long was it before the mom allowed you to meet and be around her kid? And then Drea, I'll ask you, for you, what would be like your time frame before you would allow a man to be around your son? Cool.
Okay.
I've had a situation where it was maybe within a month.
It's pretty quick.
And then and then I had another situation. It was like 3 or 4 months.
I would say my son met his father and my husband. And if he happened to meet anybody else, it was just because we were out in public, and it may have been like, oh, hey, that's your kid. You know what I mean? It wasn't, I never formally introduced him to anybody outside of his father, well, who he had to be, right? and my
I was just about to say.
But yeah, I didn't play that. And Mike, he probably met him maybe about 4 or 5 months into our relationship, and honestly, at that time it was an accident because he did come over. My son was asleep in bed, so I thought, and Andre came out the bedroom and was like, "Hey, what's going on?"
That has happened to me. That has actually happened before.
You, my mom? Like, how you know my mom?
Right.
I think that's definitely a reasonable amount of time. I know a lot of women, unfortunately, let their kids meet the people they're dating way too soon, and then they go through the cycle of like meeting a whole bunch of different men, and it's not good for their health.
It's not. It's very unhealthy. I think that it confuses the children. The kids get attached to somebody. The relationship doesn't work out, and then now it's like back to square one. You got some calling the significant other dad, and then it's just like, all right, dad's gone. Now let's find another dad. You know, that's just too much.
I from the opposite end of it, I pay attention to that too, because it's like if you introduce me to your kid really quick, then pretty much I'm gonna assume that's how that's been going. And like you said, it's like, okay, now I'm trying to find a new dad for my son or my daughter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I do pay attention to that. I feel like it's important to, because especially if I feel like I could pursue something with you long term and like this could really be something, like I got to pay attention to that, because if I do pursue this person long term and then eventually we have kids and like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's a whole list of things I feel like you got to look at and think about.
Absolutely. But I also want to add, I just want to play devil advocate a little bit. There are those single mothers that literally have no support. Like, I have a significant support system that expands very far, right? And I'm blessed to have that. There's some women or men who don't have that support. So sometimes when they're dating, they have no choice but to kind of bring their children into the picture early, because if that was the case, they would never be able to date, because they always have their kids, whether they're in school,
That's actually a pretty good point.
So sometimes, I'm not going to just say, some women just do it too soon, because some cases they do, right? But there's other women who literally don't have a choice. So
before we get too far off, Tillz, what do you want to say about your experiences dating women with kids?
Oh, this is kind of piggyback off what Skool was saying, like the whole kind of walk around on eggshells, kind of like trying to figure where you fit in, or like definitely as far as like playing like the father role, or trying to figure out, all right, so like their dad's still around, like I don't want to all of a sudden just kind of step in and just like, all right, I'm the daddy now. At the same time, you still want to play that father figure role. So it's like you try to find that, like we talked about in the group chat, you got to find that balance of, all right, let me not overstep my boundaries, but let me not just kind of like sit and not do anything and still kind of play that father role or that male figure. So it's like, it's just a tough balance. And like I was telling in the group chat, it takes a while to find that balance. And then it becomes like conflict sometimes of like not doing enough or doing too much. And that's one of the real big issues as far as like dating somebody with kids, at least for me. As far as like meeting the kids, like I've had experiences where I've met the kid like maybe after the second date, like a couple weeks in. Sometimes I met the kids like 4 or 5 months out. So it's, like I said, it differs from person to person.
Yeah, that makes sense. What you say, Skool?
I said 2 weeks in would scare me.
That's very, very quick.
Something happened.
Oh, that's what I was saying. I was saying with the whole 2 weeks thing, I was thinking when it was a good point that Drea made, because like thinking back, like that might have been the situation where it was like she had no support system, like she didn't have babysitters, she didn't have family around. So it was kind of like, well, if I want to keep pursuing dating this person, like it is what it is. Like if we want to keep moving forward, you're gonna have to meet my kid eventually. So why not now to keep this thing going? So that's why I thought it was a really good point that Dre made. Because it wasn't like in the case where it was like, damn, like she just bring her kid around and like she didn't really like know me like that. But it might have been a situation like that.
So going back to the point you made about trying to find a balance and being confusing. So Drea, once you and Mike started to get a little more serious, what was your expectation for his role to be in your son's life once you got kind of serious?
I don't know if I really had much of an expectation for Mike when it came to our son. I mean, do you mean like serious, like living together?
It doesn't necessarily have to be living together, but like a good amount of time into the relationship, y'all are really starting to feel like this could be like this could be the one type of thing.
Okay, so I think that I just expected Mike to eventually begin to like build that bond with him, because obviously ultimately you want to make sure that the person that you're with loves your child the way that you love them, right? So it might come in, and honestly I remember saying that I wouldn't date anybody that didn't have kids, because I didn't feel like they would understand, I guess everything that comes with being a parent, being a single parent, So when I dated Mike and he came and he didn't have any children, I remember that we had a lot of issues around like Mike he's very playful, but he's also could be very militant in a sense. And that's because he's worked in like the juvenile detention era, with the kids and, in that kind of environment. So, Andre is a super lovey-dovey kid. If y'all know him. So he wants to hug and kiss. And, that was him, especially at 3 or 4 years old, however old he was at the time. So he would try to go and hug Mike, and Mike's like,
Fall back.
Go back, my guy.
And he just wanted to make sure he was being
right there.
respectful. He had boundaries, and he was super like boundaries. I'm like, he's 3. He doesn't know boundaries. You know? So I just wanted him. Honestly, my expectation of Mike was just for him to build that bond with him, so that he could feel comfortable enough to give him a hug and show him that love.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like, you're in our lives. You're most likely going to be here for a long time, so you might as well just start, you know, building that connection. And that was all I expected from him. I didn't really expect him to take on any fatherly role at that time. You know, obviously I want him to be a good example, you know, but I didn't expect him to like kind of pick up any pieces that, you know, I didn't want him for that. That wasn't my purpose, you know.
I say that plays a part too. Like, kids play a big part in that, because like, kids tell it all, whether it's vocally or through emotions or just social interactions and stuff like that. For a kid to just open up and be that open towards somebody, let you know, like, all right, this could be the one for me. Because kids will tell you, like, nah, I don't like such and such, or I don't want to be around such and such. They might not say it, but they could do it. They show it in their actions.
Mm-hmm.
So for you gotta. There's a saying, like, you got to listen to the kids too. Like, they definitely play a major part into the situation.
Right.
So, Skool and Tillz didn't say it directly, but I know we talked in the group chat. One of the biggest pieces of finding that balance is knowing how much you're able to discipline that child, even though you're not that child's parent. So, let's go to when you and Mike moved in together. What level of discipline were you willing to allow him to have when it came to Joy?
That was it's funny you bring it up, because that was a huge obstacle in our relationship. And I think it's because it's very hard when you're a single mom for so long, so you're used to doing everything by yourself, right? Discipline, you know, just everything, appointments, school, you know. So when he moved in and we moved in together rather, you know, he had to tell me so many times, like, you don't have to be the alpha, you know, like, you're not a single mom, like, you're I mean, technically you're a single mom, you're not married, but I'm here. Like, you can like let some of that weight off, and you can let me handle it, right? So I mean, there will be times that Andre would do something, and you know, Mike will attempt to, you know, discipline him, and I would jump in, and he would get pissed, you know, and he would tell me, like, you know, let me discipline him, like, because it got to a point where if Andre did something wrong and Mike's saying something to him, Andre's looking at me, you know, like, what you say really don't matter. What she say, you know? I had to get to a point where I scaled back, and I said, you know, I need to let him parent. If this is what we're doing, then I need to let him step in and be a disciplinarian as well, right? Obviously, I don't condone like anybody physically disciplining him outside of me and his father, right? Or my mother, because y'all know my mother. But Mike, you know, I think I'm just very appreciative, because he steps in and makes Andre do things that I probably wouldn't have made him do, being a mom, being the nurturer, right? So like, whether it be chores or stuff like that, Mike really gets on him and makes sure that he does this, does that. Andre probably wouldn't be doing any of that if it was just me here by myself. I would have just did it myself. You know what I mean? So there's a certain kind of, I don't know, there's a certain kind of something that he brings to our household that really just gathers Andre together. And I don't know what I would have done if he wasn't here. So
man, shout out to my guy Mike again, yo.
That male involvement is so real in the household.
Makes me think of something your grandfather actually said to my mother's school a long time ago. We was playing baseball, and when she was single raising me, and he basically said, like, you can be his mom, you can raise him, but you're never, as a woman, gonna be able to teach him to be a man. And that's something that she held on to. And she'll still say that to me, like, to this day. And I think he was absolutely right when he said that.
He was right.
Yo, real quick, Drea, you said something. You said technically you was a single mother because you wasn't married. Like, what's the definition of a single mother?
So to me, a single mother is a mother that's not married. That's just the definition to me. Obviously, I mean, I guess you could still be living in the same household with your significant other, but I've always thought, by definition, that a single mother is an unmarried woman. So
that's interesting.
All right.
My-
You got it.
Wait,
You got
so
it. You got it.
if you're in a long-term relationship with somebody, years and years and years, you have
I'm speaking definition.
Right. If you're speaking technicality, if you filling out some kind of application, so you got to put single. You can't put married.
I mean, technically, but you know what we're
All
saying.
right, yo.
No, but that's what she's saying.
You can't
I'm
put
thinking
Her
dating on the
definition
application.
is a technical definition. That's what she's
Right.
saying.
We're not talking about filling out applications right now. We're talking about real life.
Oh, but you asked her, what's your definition of a single mother? And she gave you her
I gave it
definition,
to
which is
you.
the technical definition. We also know the other definition, but was her definition.
Right.
This is why I said I wasn't gonna touch it. O decided to go down that path, yo. That's why I said you got it.
That's nothing crazy. That's her definition. That's what she said. That's what she
You
said.
got it. You got it. I did not want to go down this rabbit hole. O started kicking at the tree.
It is what it is. I mean, it's what it is.
Okay.
Skool and Tillz, what has your experience been in terms of the discipline piece? Were you allowed to? Were you not allowed to? At what point were you able to? Like, what was that experience like?
I'll use two different situations. We was dating for maybe like 3 years on it, and it kind of went on and off toward the end. But like, if her daughter did something, like, she would allow me to like say something to her, like, you know what I mean, like nothing crazy. Like, I wouldn't yell at her. I don't yell at kids. I never yelled at my niece. Like, you know what I mean, like, I don't know, it's just not in me. But you know what I mean, like, you know, I would discipline her in however she allowed me to, without overstepping boundaries, or, you know, because at the end of the day, like, she wasn't my daughter. And then there was another girl. We only dated probably like 6 months, if that. And I remember one time specifically, her son. We just picked her son up from school, and he got in my car and literally like got in the car and just put his feet on the back of my seat. And I said something to him, and she was like, "Don't talk to my son like that." And I was like, all I told him was do it, put his feet down. And just went crazy on me. And after that, it probably ended like a month and a half after that. But it was just like,
That's great.
Yeah, kids putting feet on my car.
and she was just like, you know what I mean? She was like, he's just a kid. And I'm just like, well, I got family in my members that has just a kid, and I got friends that have just a kid. And, you know, it depends on how you raise your kid. Like, I know a lot of kids that are good, I know a lot of kids that are bad, but you can't just classify that situation because they're a kid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
No,
in my opinion.
Or you can still redirect your children.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even any situation like that with any kid, you'd be like, "Yo, get your feet off my chair, or wherever they have
Right.
it." In
You don't put
your car.
your feet on furniture, right?
Mhm.
It's an automatic reaction because that's just not supposed to happen. Like, you don't put your feet on another. Like, unless that floor, that's what you put your feet on. Like, don't put your feet on my seat. Don't do that. Yeah, that's tripping.
So that was kind of my situations with it, and you just don't know how, unless that conversation is had, how you're supposed to handle it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it kind of, again, puts you on eggshells in your relationship, because you're essentially like, if you're dating someone with a kid, that's a package deal. You know what I mean? So you just gotta figure out how to maneuver with it.
Yeah.
I wonder if you would have preferred for you to ask her to handle it, you know?
Well, I was going to piggyback
Possibly.
off of what Skool was saying. It was kind of like it. Honestly, in the beginning, it's kind of, you like you said, you're kind of on eggshells. You kind of don't know how to react. You don't know how, like, if you can discipline, how far you go disciplining, stuff like that. And at least for me, I feel like it's kind of falls on the mom to kind of have that conversation with the child, to be like, hey, like, this is so and so, like, this situation, like, you listen to him just like you listen to me. Because I feel like at some point it like, definitely in the beginning, it's kind of like you try to say something and they look towards mom and it's like, all right, you saying that, but like, mom, what you say? And then, like, I'm sure it sounded like you kind of alluded to that, Drea. Like, it kind of happened like that with you and Andre, where like Mike would say something, he would look towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you ever sat down and had a conversation with Andre where it was like, you gotta listen to Mike. Like it ain't, you just don't look at me as far as what's going on. Like if Mike says something, that's law. That's what's going on. So I feel like that's kind of like the conversation to kind of be had to kind of hop over that hurdle. Definitely for the mom to have the conversation with the kids, and then I don't know. It just kind of comes with time after that. Kind of just seeing where you fit in, whether it's discipline, like getting on about chores, or just listening in general.
I agree. And I did have to have that conversation. Kind of piggybacking off of what Scooby said, if you don't step in and correct the child, and let them know that you have to listen to such and such just as well as you listen to your parent, it kind of creates this kind of sensation of like, oh, you're not my dad, or you're not my mom. I don't have to listen to you, and I think like in the situation that the woman, kind of scolded Will for redirecting her child. If something like that happened and she didn't like, let's say, the way Will said it or whatever it was, I think something like that should be handled in private, because when you do it in front of the child, it just kind of gives them ammo, in the sense children are sponges, you know what I mean? So that one situation could be carried on well into the future, and it's like, oh no, I'm telling my mother, she don't like the way you talk, and it just causes more concern. So let's say if you don't like the way somebody talks to your child, or if I didn't like the way Mike said something to Andre, I would address him later. You know what I mean? I wouldn't do it in front of Andre to cause more issues in that moment. So that's all I wanted to say.
So going back to something you said before, you were talking about how when early on we try to discipline Dre, that you would step in a lot of times. So what was it that caused you to do that? Did you not trust him in that moment, or were you just so used to doing it yourself and you wanted it done the way that you did it, or what was the cause?
I think I was just so used to doing it myself. Like if Andre did something that I didn't like and Mike went into, I think that I was just so like, I was just in mom mode, so I wasn't even considering the fact that I was cutting him off until after I did it. You know what I mean? Like I was just trying to correct whatever the issue was. So like if I felt like he was being disrespectful, and Andre's rarely disrespectful, but that's not the kind of kid he is. But if he were, like, I'm like, you don't do that. And you don't, instead of letting Mike just handle it, I just felt like he needed to hear his mother's voice get in his behind. So it had nothing to do with Mike, but I can understand on Mike's end why he felt like, you're kind of taking that from me, and it causes him to respect me less. So I get it.
I just had one other thing, and then everybody else can jump in if they have more stuff. How difficult was it for you? So Dre has his dad. He has his relationship with his dad. You have whatever relationship you have with his dad in order to raise him. And now you have Mike who comes into the picture, and now you're in a relationship with Mike. How difficult was it to balance, I guess, both situations?
Co-parenting or blending the family, as you were saying. In the beginning, honestly, I don't think it was difficult at all. Let me say, okay. In my mind, it wasn't difficult because I always felt like parents should be able to put their differences aside and come together as a family for the kids, no matter what, right? Because it's the same thing. It's the same thing on Brandon's end, my child's father. It's the same thing on his end, because he was in a relationship and she had children, so everybody had to blend in, right? So my initial thing was, oh, I need to reach out to her. I need to get to know her. I need to know who's around my kid. I don't have a problem with that at all. And Brandon didn't have an issue with that either. I think the issue that was difficult was if me and his father came and had some kind of disagreement regarding a parenting issue, and I would vent to Mike about it. And he had a hard time understanding why when you're co-parenting, sometimes you gotta let stuff go. Everything doesn't need to be an issue. Sometimes you got to cave. Sometimes you have to learn how to agree to disagree and just kind of, not cause a big ruckus over minor stuff. And he didn't like, oh, well, you should do this. Or I don't understand why you let this happen. Like, why? And it's just like, because it's not worth it. You know what I mean? When you co-parent for so long, some things just not worth arguing about. And because he never had to co-parent, he didn't understand that. So I got to a point where I'm like, maybe sometimes the disagreements we have as parents together, I don't need to share those. You know what I mean? So, and I think once I got past that, everything was golden. So the issue was more in-house.
Interesting. So you think that there are certain things that happen between you and your child's father that your new husband doesn't necessarily need to know?
At the time, relationship.
Okay.
When I was that my new boyfriend didn't need to know.
Okay.
Because they were parental issues. But now, as my husband, obviously, we discuss and talk about everything. But if they're like I said at the time, if there was minor issues
You said your what?
My husband.
Oh, okay. Just checking this one. Go ahead.
My husband, but yeah, no. If like I said, if there were minor issues, then I learned we don't have to discuss every little thing, because at the end of the day, we are Andre's parents. We're gonna have to parent him for the next however many years, and Mike may not understand how we do things, but this has been working for us, and I'm not going to mess that up. So sometimes you have to, I don't know, just go with the flow.
Gotcha. So completely unrelated question I just thought about based on this. So for Danny and Drea being married, do you and your spouse tell each other everything? Like,
no.
Whatever's happening in your life, everything, or no?
No. I think as things come up, we talk about it. And if there's another issue is related to another issue, then it comes out that way. But I don't think and I don't think it's by like choice, like, oh, I can't tell her about that. I can't tell her. I think it's just one of those things it's just not present in the moment to bring up.
Dre?
Yeah, no. Mike don't tell me everything. So I don't share everything. Like I said, unless it's no, sneaky type stuff. It's nothing like that.
Yeah,
it's
no.
just like, what I mean? It's nothing to that, but it's just everything. You don't have to discuss everything. Like, even if, let's say my friends was going through some kind of issue or whatever, like, I'm not going to feel the need to go back and run and tell Mike, that's not his business.
No, same. Like, if it's mutual, like if we have a mutual friend or a mutual situation, then yes, I feel like we should both be appraised of what the situation is, so we know how to address it and handle it if that person were to come around. But I don't think we don't tell each other everything.
Yeah.
And like she said, it's nothing sneaky. It's nothing mischievous about it. This is not in the moment. It's not present in the moment. Other things, like you got a baby, you got other shit to worry about.
Exactly.
In that moment.
Exactly.
We really got time to be talking all day. Like we gotta, you know what I mean? Like we gotta work. You gotta come home.
Still
You gotta
got
take
life
little one.
shit going on.
Yeah, like like obviously you want to communicate, but if it's not dire and like an emergency situation, then a lot of stuff gets left behind. But not being sneaky about it.
What about you, O?
At this point, no. It was at one point a point of contention, because I was not a person that felt like everything needed to be discussed, and she kind of was. So we ran into issues, like you were saying before. Like if I'm discussing something with my boys or someone else, and they come to me in confidence, I felt like I don't necessarily need to tell you. But she was more of like, no, when you're married, like everything's on the table, you tell everything. So we had to kind of come to a compromise about that.
Right. Agreed.
Like I told y'all like before, like if it don't affect what I got going on in my house, and it doesn't put my family in a dire situation, it's not gonna affect them in any kind of way, then a lot of stuff will get left out. But if you're gonna try to hurt or harm my family, then that's when things gotta obviously be discussed. So we all on the same page. So it's not like I left her out of the dark, and vice versa. If something were to go left, and you're like, well, why you didn't? Then we got an issue.
Yeah.
Of course. But if it wasn't related to her, I'm sure.
No. But like, right. And if it wasn't related, but if it's a mutual thing and we both kind of know what's going on, then that's when we'll discuss it. But if it's totally not related and it's like we all out having drinks and we talking about life and shit and it's like that, then we kind of leave it at that.
Yeah.
Same thing like when she go out with her girls and I don't ask her what's going on, and she don't tell me everything what's going on. But if it's something that I feel like it needs to know, or it's an emergency, or somebody going through something, then I would need to be abreast to it so I can know how to handle them accordingly.
Yeah, it's good to know in those type of situations. Going way back to before I got on that little tangent, Dre was talking about co-parenting. To the extent that you could get into it, what has your experience been, Tillz, with your newly found kind of situation and working in that arena of co-parenting?
Difficult. No way to shit go. It's been difficult. It's been a transition.
Mm-hmm.
Try to make it work best I can. It's kind of tough, definitely being so far away. I think the distance is really what puts the strain on it. I feel like if I was closer by, then it wouldn't be as much of an issue. I think that's the biggest thing, just the distance. I mean, it's definitely a transition. It's definitely like kinks and issues you got to work out, and it's kind of just trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely trying to figure out how the whole co-parent thing works. I'm sure Drea can attest to that. But yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's working.
So, like, hypothetically, if your son were to do something wrong and she wanted you to like talk to him or wanted certain discipline, since you're not physically there, does she handle herself, or will she like call you to talk to him, or like how does that work with the distance?
So yeah, it's kind of difficult with that too, because like you're not physically there, so you're like, it's whether it's like, you gotta listen to your mom, you gotta stop doing this, you gotta stop doing that, and it's kind of like you feel like it kind of goes in one ear out the other sometimes because you're not physically there. There'd be like that presence there to be like, yo, knock it off, be able to like look them in the eye and say it, and then just saying it over like FaceTime or saying it on the phone. You kind of feel like as soon as you get off the phone, it's like, all right, daddy not here, so it's whatever. But yeah, I feel like sometimes it's still effective though. Saying like, give me a call and be like, yo, your son doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, yo, you gotta cut that out. And sometimes you can tell like he more reactive to it than not sometimes. But it's definitely it's adjustment for the kid too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what do you think the adjustment is like for him?
I think it's just like definitely he's younger, so it's kind of like it was kind of like definitely new for him, but at the same time, like he didn't ask too many questions about it. But after a while, it was like why are you still down there? What's going on with that? And it's kind of like you don't want to just drop everything on him at the same time. He's 5 years old,
Right.
so you kind of ease in, like kind of explain the situation to him.
It kind of reminds me of what I kind of went through. My mother divorced my biological father and then remarried, and then we ended up moving to Connecticut. When I was younger, I mean, you obviously have that relationship with your father, but obviously they divorced, so something went left, and I stayed with her, and then my mother ended up remarrying. But as a kid, I don't even remember. I just remember my stepfather, who I probably called like my father. But I just remember him just being a presence and just being there. And then as a kid, knowing what was going on and what I was exposed to, and then now having this constant figure in my house that's, respecting my mom, respecting, my older sister at the time, who came with us. And just being there and just doing everything as a 5-year-old is what I thought a dad should do. I just was attached to that, and like I don't ever remember like there ever being an issue with him. Not that I was doing like wild shit or anything, but like if there needed to be discipline set in place, like he did that. And I don't remember my mother ever stepping in because I felt like she was comfortable enough for him to do it in a way where at the young age that I would understand it. And as I got older, it changed with more and more discipline. But like I felt that seeing her being comfortable, then I was like, all right, so he must be the real deal. So I shouldn't have too much to worry about. So kind of brought me back to a little. You mentioned that like as a kid, like me and like just turned like 5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, at that age, I just remember just a presence, just being there constant. And then having that, you just build off of that.
Yeah, even being around you at a young age, I never looked at him like as your stepdad. I think for probably the first few years, I didn't even know that wasn't your actual dad, because it was just, the bond was just like that of a father and son.
Right. Like, and like, I can't even remember when I started. Honestly, from what I was told, I don't think I even called him like Linwood or like Mr. Linwood or anything like that. I think off the rip, it was just that. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, kids say a lot in their actions and what they do. Like, they may not be vocal, but the fact that I felt comfortable just calling him dad off the rip, like, that's big. And that shows the kind of person that he was, and how he stepped in, right, and how he stepped in and played that that father figure role and that disciplinarian, that just dad, and, you know, in general.
We covered a lot tonight. A lot of kind of deep topics.
Yeah, I think
I have a
this
question.
was
Can I ask
a
a
great
question?
episode. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Floor is yours.
So I see, this is kind of a funny question. I seen, it was like a video or something on social media, and it was a woman who was dating a guy, and they went to McDonald's and to get her daughter a Happy Meal before they went on a date.
No, where this is going.
So before they went on their date, she's like, "Oh, I gotta stop to pick up my kid a Happy Meal from McDonald's, and then I gotta drop it off to her, and then we can go on our date." So he drives her to McDonald's and orders a Happy Meal, and he asks her, like, pretty much, where's $5, right? So she's like, after that, she never dated him again because she felt like, you couldn't pay for my daughter's McDonald's. So I just want to speak to the guys that have dated women with children. Do you feel like there's a sense of obligation of paying for this meal when it comes to the kid? If you were presented with that kind of situation.
So speaking in that guy, just to get out there, I wouldn't have took the same route as that guy. I would have paid for the meal for the child, the $5 Happy Meal. I'm just put that out there before I say anything else, so I won't get slandered. But I feel like that was more of I don't think it was that the guy couldn't afford it, or the guy. I think it was more of a power move on his end, kind of just be like, if he kind of felt like if he paid for the kid's meal, the mom would expect him to pay for things for the kid in the future. And the Happy Meal might turn into a bike, or it might turn into this, it might turn into that. I think that was his mindset of not paying for the Happy Meal. It was like, oh, she think I'm just pay for this kid's stuff off rip. And I remember watching the clip, and I think the podcast where the chick was saying, I think it was like only like it was pretty new in the relationship. So the guy was probably like, yo, I just met this chick. It's only like the second or third date. She already expected me to pay for this kid's stuff. It wasn't the principle of how much it was. It was just the fact that she expected him to pay. I think that was a thing where he kind of just was like, nah, like I got to set the tone and let her know I'm not going to be paying for her kid's stuff.
This is the playoff game?
No, seriously. I'm just saying. And again, I got to reiterate, that's not the decision I would have made. I would have paid for the Happy Meal for the poor kid.
You doing that on the first date?
But the Happy Meal? Like, if I'm driving and I'm ordering the food and it's $5, I'm gonna just pay for the Happy Meal.
Yeah, I mean,
for me, I think
$5.
For me, it's like, yo, like, it's $5. It's a little bit of a flex.
I don't think it's about the. I don't think it's. I agree
man.
with you. Like, I don't think it's about the money.
Nah, it wasn't about the amount paid. It was just the fact that it was like, I think it was the mindset of, yeah. And that's what the chick said in the podcast too. She was like, I want to see if he would do it. So they were both playing chess. It was like, I want to see if he do it. And he was like, I'm
back to testing people.
Nah, I need that 571. Give me that.
I could be honest. I don't know if I went on a date with a guy and, we stopped to get my son to McDonald's and he was just like, yo, where the $5?
Yikes.
So you kids got 5 more minutes to spare. I got one more question and before we hop off.
Yeah.
All right, so Drea, a while ago, we did an episode. We were talking about our experience in Miami, right? So
Okay.
Tillz told a particular story.
That's
Oh
funny.
my god, bro.
Tillz told a particular story. He got to tell his point of view.
Yo.
I just wanted to give you opportunity to tell what happened from your perspective so that the listeners know both sides of the story. He was talking about when you were walking from the club and you came into contact with some guy. He made a comment about some type of hair or something, and Tillz didn't react the way that you wanted. So what exactly happened, if you can recall?
What happened is that Skoob ain't loyal.
Yo, come on, yo. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
But
bro.
he's not loyal, and
Yo,
that's pretty
don't do
much
that,
the
bro.
gist of it. Okay, we was walking down the strip, having a good time. I had my best curly little number on that night, and it was blowing. It was blowing in the wind, and I had to hold it a little bit, So the guy is like, "You don't gotta hold it, girl. You good, shorty? You good? It's a weave, right, or something like that. It's tied down, right?
He specifically said it's sewn in, right?
It's sewn in, right? And
I quote,
I'm just like, how you giggle a little bit, but then when other people start laughing mad loud, it's like it wasn't that funny. Like, what you like you doing too much, right? So now I'm like, what you mean it's sewn in? Like, don't disrespect me. And then Scooby's like, yeah, you straight. I'm like, what you mean he's straight? I just felt like he didn't have my back. And that was it, he's my brother. He didn't have my back. He just wasn't loyal. So
Damn, Skool, that's fucked up.
time out. Are we gonna talk about how there was two other people laughing as well? Or
it's
was it
not
just
the point.
me laughing?
It ain't the point. I expected more from you.
What? So, all right, bet. We're going to hash this out right now. What did you expect me to do?
I expected you to be like, bro, mind your business.
How would I go from all of us laughing to now saying, bro, mind your business?
Exactly how I just said it. Bro,
What kind of tone would that be?
He would have clowned you, yo.
bro, mind your business.
All four of us walking. You was doing whatever with your piece on your joint. He said,
Yo, chill, bro.
A little curly number.
Yo,
the curly number joint, the curly unit. My son
curly
walked
unit.
by, said what he said.
The curly
All of us
unit.
laughed. You took about 5 steps down the block and decided to turn around and then be mad at what he said. So now I'm supposed to turn around and be mad with you and start pressing him about
Yes, that's what loyalty is.
No.
You know what? If Danny was there, Danny would have been like, yo, don't play my girl like that.
I got
That's
you.
my brother. He would have been like,
You know
don't
what
play
time
her
it is.
like
Yo,
that.
You know what
Okay.
time
don't do
it
that.
is. You know what time it is.
You wasn't there, bro. You wasn't there.
She said if I was there. I know I wasn't
You wasn't there though.
there. Yeah, I wasn't.
wasn't
but if I
there.
was there, you know what time it is.
Exactly.
Here, man.
Yeah, your game time.
Go ahead with that, man.
Where were you at for everything? I feel like everything
That's
that you wasn't around for. You wasn't around for that. You wasn't around for the 7-Eleven thing. Where was you at?
I was in the club with Phil.
Oh, no got time. We
God.
We don't have time, bro.
Oh yeah, when that situation happened, cause y'all left earlier, so I stayed behind with Phil, and then we came. By the time we got back to the front of the hotel, y'all was on your way back from 7-Eleven.
I think Dre had locked herself in a room by then.
Yeah, it was a wrap.
Y'all had the shoes on in the club?
Nah, I didn't have the shoes on in the club.
I
Y'all had the
like
shoes on in the club. No. Me and Otis didn't have the shoes on the club.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had the bullshit.
Phil, Skool, and Tillz had the shoes on in the club. I didn't have those shoes. I brought my shoes.
Chill out, man.
I ain't need those shoes.
I say we do a repeat.
Yeah.
Say less. We're in the yayo. Stop playing.
What's up?
I would say kids is too old for Miami, but Tillz has made it clear that we're not.
Yo, come on, don't do that.
How many times you been there this year?
I have not been to Miami at all. Don't do that, man.
That's stupid.
Not all this month.
You went during the pandemic.
Come on. I have not been to Miami in a year.
Out here.
Is that the hazmat suit?
Dirty.
Yeah, I swear it gives me
dirty.
OT all the time, yo.
Yeah, we definitely should do that, though. That'd be dope.
I agree.
Go back, do a pod down there. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
As long as it ain't on 4th of July weekend or Memorial Day, yo.
Nah,
You
who's
know,
going
those
that
are
day?
your weekends to yourself.
Crazy. I ain't going.
You said what?
I can only participate in day activities because my bedtime is at 9. So
So what you going for?
day party activities. I just said it.
She told you.
They start at 9. What you mean?
I'm gonna have to catch y'all then.
Yo, remember when we got back from that Diddy party at like 5 o'clock in the morning and the sun was coming up?
No, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Yo.
What Diddy party? Y'all went to a Diddy party?
Oh.
That was
You know my wife listened to the pod. You wild.
You're right. My bad. My bad.
We ain't got time.
Mark, scratch that. Y'all can scratch that.
Oh, Otis not gonna do it.
You better have an edit mark on what Dre said before. That's all I
I
need.
talked to the edit department.
That's what I said.
Got to talk to
I said
HR.
I said what I said.
Nah, you gotta edit that out, Sam.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Let's end this because we ain't got time for no more Miami stuff.
Dre, you weak because you know I know, so stop it, yo.
You just know I had her back. That's all I took out of this. I don't care about it. I know.
Exactly. I know. Otis wouldn't have my back, and I know that, and that's okay. I expect that from him. But
And I know. I know. We both
I know. You know that I know.
You gonna stop making it sound like dude was trying to fight you, yo? Like I have your back.
He was trying
No,
to.
How
he
did I keep hearing the
wasn't,
story?
yo.
It sounded like a fight was about to happen.
No,
Exactly.
yo,
He had
don't
my
do
back.
that. Yo,
I had
Bert,
it by
come
myself.
on, man.
I had to fight this grown man.
And he had his boys with him. That's crazy.
And his boys.
He was verbally
He was
attacking.
about to get her jumped, bro.
My son was by himself.
Crazy.
In one little slick, low-key
And he was
flirty
a big
comment.
dude. He was like 6'9".
He was not, yo. Yo. All right, man.
Dread.
Wait, yo, Till, you said he was by himself?
Yeah, like
My son was by himself.
Oh, that's even more reason of you to defend her, man.
Yo, come on, yo. So we doing?
And he was smoking a cigarette. You know he was dangerous.
I'm the bad guy.
Oh yeah. Nah.
Wait, time out. Cigarettes make people dangerous?
Did he have on black Air Forces?
Nah, Black Air Forces is legit. If he had black Forces on, I might have to fight him.
With the GU
I'm pretty sure he didn't.
In the summertime.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Bro, that's crazy.
Getting out of here, man.
You said Montrezl Harrell was walking around. I kicked his out.
Clearly, my version of the story has more truth to it.
Do it.
Right. According to who? To you? Nah, but it was nice, fellas. I appreciate you guys having me on today.
Parenting,
co-parenting is not an easy process, but it's very necessary. It's like I said, I always say it's about the kids at the end of the day. Literally, my job all the time is about getting parents to try to come to an agreement for the sake of the children because they're the one that's suffering at the end of the day. So if you could make it work for the kids, figure it out, keep your parental issues between the parents. Don't bring the children in it. Kid will be golden.
Great place to end.
Well, y'all heard her, folks. Do what you gotta do. She dropped a good word for y'all. So.
Y'all heard her, folks. Do what you gotta do. That's all. Go out there now. Say, get it done.
Attaboy.
Hey, yo.
Oh,
I just go pat him on the back. Say, go get him. Say, go get him. That's funny.
Oh, man. Nah, this was a good episode, man. We definitely enjoyed it. Hopefully the people enjoy it and get some good gems out of it. We're going to break it there. We're going to end it there. Skool and the Game podcast. Shout out to my guys, Andrea. Catch us next week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, fellas.